Hello and welcome to Analog Comics. Now this is a video I thought I would never make because I am excited about a new Lucky Luke album, and not just one but two, and they're both from the same creator, Matthieu Bonhomme. What is so special about these two albums is the way that they've been drawn and also written. This reboots and reimagines Lucky Luke completely. These are both Matthieu Bonhomme's solo work. The Man Who Shot Lucky Luke, this came out first, and then Wanted Lucky Luke. He writes, he does the art and even coloring. So it is true solo work of one man. And the reason why I am excited about this is that I have not been interested of Lucky Luke albums, new Lucky Luke albums, for 20 years, since its creator Morris died. It was 2001. And since that I have not even looked inside of any new Lucky Luke albums. There has been many coming out. I've seen the covers, but I haven't even touched them. Problem being that they tried to be carbon copy of Morris. They were doing it in the style of Morris, the original artist. For me, that's a warning sign, because in the end you cannot copy anyone's work that closely. And me being a fan since childhood, I've been reading Morris, well, before I knew how to read, so I know his style very well. In that sense, I have not been interested at all. And now I have to remind you, I have not looked inside of any of those Morris lookalike albums, so I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just my attitude. But I want to stress that out, that I don't know what's inside them, and my opinion is based only on my attitude, that it's bad without reading. So if you're interested of them, please don't let this be the obstacle for it. It's also a bit unfair for the artist doing those albums, but it's in a way not my fault, but it's unfair for them because, you know, they might be very good artists, writers, but their hands are tied because they cannot do their thing. They cannot do what they are good at because they are put to copy someone else's work. And that's where these two albums from Matthieu Bonhomme come in. What he has done is, as you can see, this is what the art looks inside also, and also here. What he has done here is, of course, those familiar with the Lucky Luke. The original Morris Lucky Luke is very cartoony. He has these two legs, and he's the original duck face. His lips are always pouty, and he has this eternal cigarette between them. Although it's changed into a straw at one point because the US publisher demanded that Morris leave out the cigarette because it was aimed at the children, and he was okay with that, and he swapped the cigarette to straw. But here you can see that this is much more adult in a way. It's still cartoony. I mean, the heads are oval looking and so on, but this is halfway realistic in a way. But this is also much more cartoony compared to such like, let's say, Blueberry, which to me is like the highest level of realism in Western comics. But it already makes possible to draw in emotions, different, like deeper emotions, more complex expressions on the faces of the characters. And that's just what Bonhomme is doing here. He is bringing emotions into Lucky Luke. And I know that sounds funny if your mind is still at the original cartoony looking Lucky Luke. That's not a thing in those comics. They are about humor and the running gags. Rene Goscinny was known to write in those repeating running gags. And he often made it so that they repeated even the next albums and the next album. So it was his thing. But here, this is like personal. This makes the whole story more personal. It makes you think, who is Lucky Luke? And as I said, as funny as it sounds, that's what Matthieu Bonhomme has achieved with these albums, and I was surprised by that. He first brought out this The Man Who Shot Lucky Luke. I did see this on the newsstands, but I was still then having that attitude. I didn't want even to touch it. But then when I saw that there was another album coming from him, I bought this one first. And I was right away like, wow, okay, I need to see more. And then I got this one. And right after this, when I read this, I went back to this. And this was even better on the second read than on the first one. Both of these albums are also like love letters from a fan. You can see that whoever did this is a true fan. Not just with the art, but with the stories. There are those running gags. One of them includes the cigarettes. Lucky Luke is trying to get the smoke here, but as the world has it, it just never happens. And the gag just continues here. And those are the little details that are easily missed if you are only a casual reader of the Lucky Luke. Then there are even deeper Easter eggs inside. Of course, there are familiar characters, but you don't have to know them to enjoy the albums. You don't have to know what they are, but if you are familiar with Lucky Luke, you'll enjoy having these old characters there. And actually, with the context on one character, I can't even say what the Easter egg is, but as they are discussing it, it's actually in this album, that character is discussing certain detail with Lucky Luke. You have to be kind of diehard fan to know what they are talking about, or at least you have to be as old as me to remember that. But I can't say anything more about it because I'm trying to keep this as spoiler free as possible. Okay, enough of my excited rant about the comics. Let's look inside. But because I don't want to spoil anything, I need to limit what I show to the kind of first pages of both of these albums. I want to be careful about that. But there are a few very cool pages, so it's actually really good to take a closer look at them because they also reveal more about how Bonhomme has transformed the Lucky Luke into a completely new look. Let's go through the albums in the chronological order. The Man Who Shot Lucky Luke came first. Mine are Finnish editions, but these are both also available in English through Cinebook. And that's how the cover looks. And this is pretty cool. This first album very much plays with the legend of Lucky Luke. People here, they know who he is. And that is a driving force in many of the story points. And here we already see the expressions on the face and the postures and everything. This is very unlike the Morris Lucky Luke. Start of the album is quite cinematic. The camera is kind of standing on the mountains where we can see the village down there, and it starts with a loud bang. And then we start zooming in and someone is shouting, "Did you see? It was me, I shot him." And then we are even closer. "I was the one who destroyed the legend. I shot Lucky Luke." That's the first page. So we coming with the shocker. And in the next page, we're already few days earlier. So it starts with a very cinematic trick. In some movies, they start with that kind of shock in the beginning. It's kind of useful if you have a slow building in the movie or in the story, like here. It's built slowly. So you start with the shocker, so you the reader, or if you're watching the movie, you know that there's kind of reward waiting for you when you wait for the things to happen and build up. And here again, quite atmospheric picture. Something like this could not be found in the old Lucky Luke. We see rider in the storm, and then the character comes closer, walking down the hill lower to the valley and arriving at the Froggy Town. And no dialogue on the first page. We go to the next page and still the first two panels are without dialogue. The writer arrives at the stable or a hotel, knocks at the door, wants to get in. Owner opens the door and let the writer in. He wants to get a place to where to sleep and a stable place and some food for the horse. And the owner asks, okay, what's the name? Who's paying the bill? And then we see the face. Luke, Lucky Luke. Almost James Bondish beginning. I think this is pretty cool. And also from the reaction, we know that these people know who Lucky Luke is. And if you think of a character of Lucky Luke, something that is not often with the humorous, the basic Lucky Luke, the humorous gag fest, is that he is a character that doesn't change. There is absolutely no character development in Lucky Luke. That's one of the main traits of many comical characters. They are always the same at the beginning of each album. It doesn't matter what Lucky Luke album you read. In the beginning he writes in alone, and at the end he writes off alone. And when the next story begins, it doesn't matter what happened before or didn't happen. He's the same character, and you know exactly how he's going to react to anything that's coming at him. But the way Matthieu Bonhomme draws this, he brings the reader closer to the character, and this makes it more personal. We are watching him eating, drinking, taking the plates away, returning them. It's like, if you think about the fourth wall, some comics, they break the fourth wall, meaning that the characters, they are conscious of them being in a comic book, or they are talking to the reader. But with this, I felt like it's like inverted fourth wall. It feels like I was sucked in to the world that was usually covered with that Morris style Lucky Luke. But now I got in and I saw what's under it. And it only takes few minutes when Lucky Luke has eaten that there's a first person there to try it out. He said, draw now, I want to see if you are as fast as I am. So that's his burden, I guess. And then one thing that is common to Lucky Luke is the cameos, or some reference to some real life people. Like here is Doc Wednesday, so he's like Doc Holiday, a real life person. The plot involves Lucky Luke arriving this Froggy Town, and it's a strange situation there as sheriff with his brothers. They are keeping control of the city in a way that's not normal, and Lucky Luke doesn't like it. But everybody in the story feels like he's a walking weapon, which Lucky Luke kind of is, and that annoys the sheriff and the brothers also, as they being kind of the big bad boys in the town. Another story element is Indian, that they said that he robbed this money carriage, bringing money to the miners in town. So it's like a subplot there, and Lucky Luke starts to investigate that. And at this point, just to make sure I don't make any spoilers, I have to close the book and move to the next one. Next we have Wanted, Lucky Luke. The story, it evolves around these four characters. There are these three ladies who are on their way to a village with their cattle to sell it, and as you can see, there is some problem on the way, and they meet Lucky Luke, and he wants to make sure that they get there safe. But that's only basically half of the story, but already that has a lot of good things going for it. I like the way Matthieu Bonhomme uses these women to get closer to Lucky Luke as a person. This album very much asks, who is Lucky Luke? And that's another thing that you rarely ask about the comical character of Lucky Luke. If you think about even the Morris and Rene Goscinny's stories, Lucky Luke is always very distant. Although he's there helping people, but you don't get close to him. But it's also a thing that you don't think about when it's about gags and fun. But here, these characters, they put Lucky Luke into very kind of intimate situation. They are trying to win his attention. Each of them have their different reasons for that. And I like the way that these female characters has been written, because they're not just, stupid blonde or something. They have a character and their own traits, own agendas and so on. And the interaction between them throughout the story changes all the time. And this to me was kind of a stroke of genius, the depth of feelings in the story. Let's look at the first page. It's clearly sunset. Lucky Luke is riding into the story. We know it's him because he's singing "I'm a Poor Lonesome Cowboy." And for me, this is immediately kind of blueberryish thing. First, there are these details on the rocks. This is something that I see a lot of. Jean Girard is very good at doing these rock formations in Western comics. But it's the brown that is turning into red. This reminds me always of Blueberry comics. And also this kind of color. But one important detail is the details. As you can see, the rocks here in the riverbed and also here, they are kind of void of details. And this separates this from such like Jean Girard's Blueberry. And I think it's a smart decision. If Bonhomme would do very much details on the backgrounds, it would make the a bit cartoony characters stick out, like stand out like it's a sticker. Now it's in balance, yet it's still far more realistic than the Morris Lucky Luke. Here we see Lucky Luke arriving to the river to let the Jolly Jumper have some drink, and suddenly he gets shot. And the character that shoots him, I will not tell you who he is, but that's the character where this one Easter egg is linked at. The discussion that this character has with Lucky Luke at some point means that the writer of this story knows more than the regular reader of Lucky Luke. I'll jump over the first few pages, but after some skirmish, Lucky Luke finds out that he's wanted. He finds this paper, the leaflet. He's wanted for $50,000. Lucky for him, they at least request him alive. And this is already in the very first pages of the story. But then let's see one of the coolest pages in this comic book. It in a way starts here at the end of the previous one. There's Indians attacking the carriage, kind of basic stuff. But the next page is really something I like a lot. Of course, when Lucky Luke arrives and he shoots, he doesn't miss. So he cuts the feather, the spear, the bow. The attackers get shocked and they decide to retreat. And now Lucky Luke arrives like a white knight. This is a very kinetic picture. Here we even see some details on the muscles of the horse, so it's clearly, this is important moment. And this lighter color here and the big arrow on the front, it draws your attention here. And of course the smoking gun. But there are people under the carriage too. And when Lucky Luke passes them, the camera zooms in to where the people are under the carriage, here. And that's when the sunset is behind Lucky Luke and he becomes a silhouette. And there's no cooler way, of course, to stop a horse than, putting the front wheels up. And then the camera zooms in back even more. Now we are actually under the carriage.
And of course the setting sun is looking even bigger, just because it looks cooler. And we see these characters watching, these shadowy characters slowly stepping down on top of the horse, and then comes the money shot right there. I think this is cool. The sun, setting sun on the back, shading the face of the hero, who is coolly walking towards them and holstering the gun. And once he arrives, then we see Lucky Luke's face, and he just kneels and says, "Ladies." Now that's how the hero enters the story. Many times in this book, Bonhomme puts Lucky Luke into these close encounters with other people, and they are asking him very intimate questions, and it surprises you, because that's not supposed to happen in Lucky Luke, but they happen here. And then you suddenly want to know, okay, how is he going to reply to that or react to that? And the way this is written, it kind of weaves around certain facts. It answers questions without answering them, keeping Lucky Luke what he is, the never-changing, the distant legend. But still you feel like you're this bit closer to knowing who he is. I really, really like these books. But now I have to close it, not to spoil anything.
And you just witnessed my fanboy rant of Matthieu Bonhomme's Lucky Lukes. Now this is how you reboot or reimagine old classic. These were done so well that I will definitely go and check out what else works Matthieu Bonhomme might have done. But this also gave me a spark that I want to go back and revisit the Morris Lucky Lukes too. And that's a lot to read. I mean, in Finland there are about 100 albums now out of Lucky Luke, and I think the ones that Morris did is about 70% at least of those, so there's a lot to read. But that is never a bad thing, right? And I mean, after over 20 years I get to be excited of something new from one of my favorite characters. What a great day. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.